Let's get to it, y'all. At Avenue, we invest in people, homes, and communities to advance equity and opportunity for all Houstonians. You all have the opportunity to live in quality homes in healthy, vibrant, and inclusive neighborhoods. And at our Avenue Center, we offer homeownership education and counseling from pre purchase counseling to post purchase counseling after you buy your home. And in the event that you ever meet anybody or find yourself in need, we also provide foreclosure intervention counseling. We have several community initiatives. My peer Daniel yesterday had geared up a group of people to canvass and get ready for voting time. So there's also a cohort of fellows that are able to participate in community advocacy. We develop single family and multifamily homes. We have about eight multifamily complexes that you're able to lease an apartment from. Those properties are managed by a property management company and they manage the leases. We also provide resident support. So, at all of these multifamily communities, we provide resident services from food drives to youth camps. We did a summer camp this summer. There's so many different benefits to being an Avenue tenant. So let's see. So a lot of you guys are starting on the right track, and we want to know if you're ready to buy a home. One of the biggest questions when considering your next move is, am I ready? Is buying for me? Or is renting better? Do I like the benefits of being a tenant, right? There's certain amenities. So, in this next slide, the path to home ownership begins with understanding your income. How much you're earning defines how much you will be financed for, and it's one factor, right? Because then we have to talk about budgeting. How many of you are W-2 employees? Can you raise your hand? Okay, Melvin's W-2, Shantae. Okay, most of you are. All right. All right. I see. Yeah, most of us are W-2s. So what you can do right now is maintain that income. You guys can lower your hand. So lenders really want to see that you have consistent income, that you have, even if you transition, right? Let's just say you get a better job offer, that you have a very small gap from one job to the next, and that usually you remain in the same industry. So you can have as many employers in 1 year as long as they are all in the same industry and that you understand that there shouldn't be any significant gaps. If there are any gaps, it's okay. You just, your journey looks a little bit different and that timeline will have to be established. So there's a lot of people that can switch jobs, and so they just have to really establish that payment history before demonstrated to a lender that they have consistent established employment. Right, that's what that means. Also, how much you earn a year, will tell you how much you can afford. So budgeting and planning expenses is really important, y'all. Starting today, start thinking about where you see yourself in the next 3 months. For some of you that already have pre-approvals, are you shopping and trying to buy in the next 30 days? Is it 45 days? Is it 2 months? For a pre-approval, there's usually a timeline. So they'll pre-approve you, and then you'll have about 60 to 90 days to find and secure a property. And we will learn all of that process today. But really start thinking about, why do I say think about where you see yourself? Because budgeting is going to get you there, right? I have cats. I don't have kids yet, but I am a sucker for new collars. I love to buy them new collars with little tiny bells that they will just lose in 3 days, but it's fine because I love them. I also am a sucker for down the street. We have a snack shop. They sell mangonadas. Do y'all know what mangonadas are? They're Mango slushies with like chamoy and tahini, delicious. If you've never had one, you should definitely try it. But definitely visualize, like, all of those expenses may seem like it's just today, or it's only a color, but they do add up over time. So as counselors, we help you create a personalized budget and understand what your expenses are. We use value systems to really understand what you value, so that when you buy your home, none of the things that you value have to be sacrificed. Okay? This is on page 10. So as I go along, you can make your notes. Um, I know you have an ebook, but one of the things I mentioned was grabbing pen and paper. So if you haven't done that now, it's really great to just take notes so that you can refer back to them. All right, I'm going to take a quick moment. I see the chat. Let's see. Let's see. Virtual and evening counseling classes, great. Counseling. Pre-purchase counseling. Unfortunately, we don't have evening classes. We only have, I do want to clarify that we only have daytime classes because they are 8 hours. So our schedule for classes can be usually traditionally on a Saturday. Sometimes we do have virtual classes on Wednesdays from same time, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. But the counseling is an individualized personal assessment that can take up to 2 hours. So I want you guys to start wrapping your mind around it, because it's more than a conversation. Personalized homebuyer assessment will tell you what your specific income is, what your budget overall looks like, so that we can understand savings. How much is coming in, how much is going out, gives us a realistic idea of what your savings are. We recommend a minimum of 3 months of mortgage payments to be saved prior to buying the home, or as part of your 6-month plan when you purchase, right? To make sure that in the event of sickness, loss of employment, hurricanes, that you're prepared for that, and that you're not going to, again, have to sacrifice any of the things that you currently enjoy doing. It can become very stressful to pick between, buying gas, or limiting groceries, or anything else that needs to be adjusted that is necessary. It becomes very difficult to pick between paying a mortgage and all of the other essentials, right? And then it's back to school time. How many parents do I have in the room? Can you, why don't you use the chat and see how many kiddos do you have? What's your family like? What are y'all doing this weekend? Let's see. And also, I see Ms. Diamonisha said she wants land so she can put all of her animals in a garden in the back. How many animals do you have? I need to know. Okay, Melissa Alexander has a 10-year-old girl. And then Miss Roberta has 4 sons. My goodness. A champ. And then Miss Patricia has 1. And then Miss Johnson has 1 as well. My 2 children are grown, Miss Stephanie said. Okay. Miss Shantae, do you have a question? And you guys can lower your hand now. Thank you so much for letting me get to know you. So as part of your savings also, you're going to have to move, right? Miss Trinity says we have 1 Chihuahua and he's spoiled. Okay. I feel that. A lizard. Miss Diamonisha has a lizard, y'all. And a donkey. Oh, you want a donkey. Okay. I'm like, where do you keep your donkey right now? Okay. And then I saw somebody asking for the ebook, so we'll just drop that back into the chat. It is available on the chat as well. If you open your chat, you can see Rosalia's link. Let's see. And then what else? We got 1 German Shepherd. Nice. Okay. So let me grab you the ebook also. I'm going to drop it in here for y'all to have. So what else comes next after you move? You're probably going to want to furnish your house. Decorating. I have some decorators in the room that are going to be ready to decorate and maybe buy some things. So we want to save up for those things. Maybe you don't have to contract a mover, but you want to recruit your friends and family to help you with the move, right? What about buying them pizza? Or what about, buying them water or gas? Like, what if you pay them in gas? Like, those are all still expenses that will add up, even if it's just throwing a $20 at somebody to help you. It adds up. And then closing out rental expenses. So a lot of you that said that you're renting right now have leases. When does your lease end? How much is it going to cost you to end that lease early? Right? So do you have the funds right now to afford the early termination fee? Those are all real questions that I want you to start wrapping your mind around, because the next thing is going to be how much debt you have. In order to make room for savings, we have to bring your debt down. The debt will also tell lenders what your debt to income ratio is. A debt to income is literally just that, y'all. Y'all don't uh, think further don't read into it. It's debt to income. How much debt do I have compared to my income? So if I'm earning $1,500 a month and my debt, my credit cards, and all of that adds up to $1,000, that means that I have only $500 left for creating cash reserves, for budgeting, and all of the things, right? So in counseling, we talk about what your surplus is, because like I said, it's an individualized, personalized assessment to really tell you how mortgage ready you are. It's about 2 hours that we get to hang out. So y'all make sure to come see me. Credit scores. How many of you have recently pulled your credit? Or, matter of fact, how many have seen your credit report lately? Raise your hand. All right, Miss Geraldine, she's on it. Lots of you. Okay, that's great. I'm so glad to know that all of you are keeping an eye on your credit. So Ms. Valeria says she's seen her score but not her report. Did y'all know that we'll be covering that in class today on how to get your free credit report? So stay tuned for that. There are credit scores, and those credit scores tell lenders what loans you qualify for. Are there any members of our class today that have served in the military? Miss Patricia, have you served in the military, or is your hand up from earlier? Okay, I see. Okay, no members of the military today. Okay, well, there is a veteran loan, a VA loan that is available that you can qualify for if you served in the military. The FHA loan is a Federal Housing Administration loan, and those credit scores tend to be 580 to 640 eligibility. So if you have a 580, yes, you can qualify. Later on, we'll talk about the affordability of that. And then if you have a 680 or above, that is a conventional loan, my friends. And conventional loans are offered by private entities like banks, credit unions, etc. So VA, FHA come from the federal government. Conventional loans come from private entities. Then we talk about down payment assistance. No, not assistance just yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. Down payment. Based on your credit score, you unlock different types of benefits. If you have an FHA loan with a lesser credit score, you could qualify for the 3.5% down payment. Although this looks lower than a conventional loan, right? Because y'all see here, 20% is a lot higher than 3.5%, right? But that just means that you're financing the rest of this 3.5%. So your loan will be higher for 30 years than if you have a higher credit score. You have more money to put down, but that means your loan value for the next 30 years is lower. Does that make sense? I see a question. Melvin, do you have a question?
Yeah, so do you recommend if you have 20% to go for the conventional instead of the FHA?
1,000% will depend on your individualized assessment. I say that because if you have 20% to put down right now in cash reserves, our goal is to keep your reserves and benefit from down payment assistance grants so that those grants can cover that 20%, right? And then some people can use their funds towards paying down the interest rates instead, right? And then keep in mind that you
Yeah.
also have like your move out expenses, closing out rental expenses. So those are things that we definitely do not want to like completely deplete our savings account. Um, I actually had a client who got pre-approved, and their during their assessment, one of the progress items was keeping an eye on savings because they were having to use a lot of it for closing. The lender came back and they asked, how do you plan to pay your first house note? We noticed that you're using all of your savings on this transaction. We just want to make sure that we'll be paid on time when the payment is due. Okay, so they're just measuring risk. We'll talk about that later on. Miss Jules, Mr. Robert, do you have a question?
Yeah, so if your credit score is in that 680 range, are you now not eligible for the first time home buyer's loan, and you have to go the conventional route, or
Can you
can you
repeat
still do the
the
conventional?
beginning of your question? I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of it.
Yeah, if you are, say you have a credit score that is above 680, are
Mhm.
you required now to go the conventional route, or can you still do the FHA loan?
You can totally do the FHA loan, understanding that your loan value will be higher. And also, I had another example, right? The borrower applied to the bank, and the bank automatically gave them an FHA loan. As a counselor, my job is to teach you how to compare products. So we asked the lender for a loan estimate for a conventional loan, and the borrower found that the most savings were in the conventional loan. So we really just want to compare like apples to apples, the same properties, same loan amounts, with two different types of loan terms. What does it mean for you at the end of the day? It will really depend on your personalized individual assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, sure. And I want to say this is a great opportunity to say like the higher credit score, think about it. We'll talk about it actually in depth when we do cover credit management, but just the higher the credit score doesn't necessarily mean that you have better benefits, right? There's benefits for all types of people with different credits. Lower credit scores mean that there may be higher interest on loans. And like I just explained, coming down with 3.5% means that you're actually financing 96.5%, which is a higher loan value than if you have an 80% finance loan. All right, so it'll start to click as we start going through it. And if you still have questions at the end of the presentation, we can do a one on one. I have a question from Trinity. Does Avenue help with finding jobs when people move out there? You're in Michigan? Well, right now we partner with different agencies like Sir Jobs and United Way. What's another one? The Harris County Department of Education is also offering different workshops for free, y'all. They're training individuals with workforce training. Sir Jobs does a lot of like construction. They do like a drywall, and I think that one is like 4 weeks. And then you're certified in drywall. They do carpentry, and then Harris County Department of Education has a CNA program, certified nursing assistant, paralegal options as well, and then medical admin, work workforce training. So at the end of it, you definitely get certified, and then you are able to work through those agencies for job placements. Avenue is not a type of agency that works with workforce training, but we do certainly have several community partners that we lean on. If you have a co-buy with someone who is a surviving spouse of a veteran, do you qualify for a VA loan? That's an excellent question, Miss Lakeisha. Let me get back to you on that, okay? All right, so now we have an idea. This is on page 10. We've covered income, budgeting, cash reserves, debt, down payment, credit scores. Lots of big topics. And all of this is why pre purchase counseling is going to really equip you with not only the counseling part, but you walk away with a visual aid of all of this based on your individual household. So it's going to be a budget, a client action plan, and a financial analysis. You get all three at the end of the counseling. So 10 out of 10 recommend for anyone, regardless of what part of the journey you're in. It's better to find out now and understand what you need to work on, if you need to work on anything, than later. And for those of you that have been pre-approved, I 100% recommend comparing different loan products to really see if you're getting the most bang for your buck. I had a client, we just shared this story at our staff meeting. Thanks to everybody's collaboration here at Avenue and all of our partners out in the community, one of our Avenue families who was getting pre-purchase counseling was pre-approved for 100% financing with a $5,000 grant that will be used towards closing costs. So that means they don't have any out-of-pocket expenses, y'all. They're just going to be paying for they decided to pay down on the interest. So they're going to pay down on the interest, and they're going to pay for the appraisal, which we'll cover in just a second. So page 11 to 12 is your homeownership team. I am part of your homeownership team. In addition to that, you have a real estate agent that you'll be able to pick, a lender. There's an asterisk on attorney because when there are seller-to-seller transactions, we recommend working with an attorney to draft up your documents and ensure that you are not just passing on a property and becoming a tenant with the owner responsibilities. So there have been situations where people do seller-to-seller transactions, and later down the line, after having invested money into repairs, renovations, paying taxes, they find out that they never owned the property and the title is not in their name. So this entire time they've been paying somebody else's mortgage, somebody else's taxes, and they don't have ownership of that property. Okay? There are title agents, so you're going to work with a title company as part of buying a home, an appraiser who goes out to value the property. The appraiser works for the bank, and they're valuing the asset to determine whether that property is worth the amount that they're financing you. A surveyor will go out to map out the property, and you will get an actual closing survey with all of your property lines, utility lines, easements, and then you also will work with an insurance agent. Insurance is going to be not recommended, required as part of your loan because it's going to protect your asset against any total loss. And so it's really great. We have a group activity to get through. I'm keeping an eye. We have about 10 minutes. So I'm going to get you guys started because you're already on track. Number 1 is getting educated. These are all the steps in the home buying process. You're already getting educated. Number 2, we're going to prepare your finances through our pre-purchase counseling, right? Why is that important? It's important so that you understand the expenses for your household, your current debt, and how that's going to play into your ability to make your first year of payments, really. Foreclosure is very real and can happen in the first 3 years of ownership. All right. Number 3, some of you are already at this step, so get pre-approved. Do I have any brave volunteers that want to just take a gander on what our 4th step is? Let's see. I'm going to start pulling sticks, y'all. You can type it in the chat if you want, or you can come off mute. There's no wrong answers. We're all learning.
I'm guessing shop for a home.
Okay.
Or like look for one. I don't know.
Ooh, there's one that comes right before it. You have to decide what you want and what you need. The reason is before you start working with a realtor, right? A lot of people get frustrated here because they're not really finding that their realtor is understanding them, or I've heard them tell me they just don't know what they're doing. All the houses I've seen have nothing to do with what I want. And then also, what we teach you really is that there are needs, right? I heard early on in the class somebody talk about location, right? We talked about location and how important that was. So when you're shopping, is it a need to stay within a location? Do you want to be close to your job? Is that more important than, um, something like um, a two-story versus a one-story house? You just have to define like what you need so that when you talk to a realtor, you're telling them, I need this house to be inside the loop. I need this house to be zoned to this particular school district, right? Some of us have kiddos, so the schools matter. Buying a house and then finding out the school zone that your kids are going to, um, uh, and the versus the schools that you want them to go to are not eligible is not a fun time. So we definitely want to think about needs. Is the property in a flood zone, right? Um, is it eligible for a grant? So the same clients that got financed at 100% on the condition that they buy a home in a specific area, in a specific zip code. So it has to be in that census tract. It's called a census tract for you to be able to purchase that home with that program. Remember what I said early on in the class is there are several different programs. In this class is only one piece of your application for those programs. Okay? So let's see. Then you select a real estate agent. So if you've already selected a real estate agent and you're already shopping for a home, but you haven't gotten your pre-approval, it's okay. What I want you to understand though is that buying a home is a process. And if you've ever seen a caterpillar build a cocoon and turn into a butterfly, that's the best way that I can describe how progressive this process is, right? You've started at step 5. You already have your agent, right? Maybe you started at step 6 because you're shopping for a home. But when you start here, you still have to go back, complete step 2 and 3 at least if you haven't done, because you've already done the class. Complete step 2, step 3 so that you can really understand what you're buying. What happens when you start shopping for a home is that you can find out maybe that home has way too many repairs than you originally thought that you were going to bargain, right? Maybe you find out that that home, the seller actually raised the price and you don't actually have pre-approval, so it's not like you can go into contract, right? In order to go under contract for a home, you have to show that you have been pre-approved. So this is a progressive journey. We recommend these steps in this order because you're going to have to get through them eventually. Even if you have to kind of cartwheel your way around, you're going to have to go through every step. And this is already a stressful process. So doing it in this order and the way that we recommend really alleviates some of that day-to-day stress because you already know what to expect, right? Okay. Miss Jasmine, let's try one more time. Miss Jasmine, can you come off mute to let us know what you think is next? Or can you type it in the chat? You also have the option to type it in the chat. Okay, let's try. Okay, Nate, Mr. Nate, do you mind trying to let me know what you think is next?
Shop for a home.
Mm-hmm. You were listening. Okay, shop for a home. And so what do we think is next, Miss Roberta? You can come off mute, Miss Roberta.
I think get homeowners insurance quotes.
Almost. Miss Lakeisha said contract. Oh, I jumped ahead, y'all. Contract is not exactly on here, but it is part of making an offer. So yes, do the contract, Miss Lakeisha. And thank you, Miss Roberta, for participating. I really appreciate that. So, Miss Lakeisha, the making the offer comes with the contract. And by this time, you've already selected a real estate agent who's going to represent you throughout this transaction. So, you've already given your real estate at this point all of your needs. Hey, I need this property to have this and this and this, and these are my wants that I'm willing to negotiate, right? A lot of the times we start with curb appeal. Well, we want it definitely matters that you have, your kitchen island or your steel appliances. What matters more is if that home is going to be sold to you with appliances, right? Because not all sellers do that. Some sellers sell you the home as is with no appliances. So that's a really great question to ask. And then also understanding utilities. Do you want gas or do you want electric? Because that makes a really big difference too, right? How are you going to be cooking? That's important. So by that time, you're going to be shopping for a home. It makes the offer that much smoother, right? Because it's not a question anymore of whether you're going to buy the home. It's a question of, are they going to accept the offer, right? Because the seller doesn't have to accept it. That's also why we recommend starting from the beginning with a real estate agent so that you have lists to go down to. If this house didn't work out, just be prepared to move on to the next one, because they do have to accept your offer in order for you to go under contract, right? What can happen sometimes is then you get the inspection and then you find out that there's repairs that need to be done. And you decide, I don't want to make these repairs. Or you talk to your realtor and they negotiate on your behalf to either reduce the sales price or maybe they can throw some other things in, right? When we were buying the house we are living in now, we found that there was moisture. It's a 2-story house, but during the inspection, they did a laser test, fancy stuff. But they tested the humidity and the moisture in the ceilings. So they found moisture underneath one of the upstairs bathrooms. And so our realtor was able to negotiate with the seller's realtor to make sure that those repairs were done in order for us to continue with the transaction. The seller could have said, no, I'm going to leave as is, but I'll lower the price. And we would have still continued and decided whether we wanted to make those repairs because we know they had to be done. Mr. Roberts, you have a question? Like I said, that's where we've negotiated repairs now. And then we're going back to the bank and saying, I found my home. I found it. I got it. Can I apply for the mortgage now? And that's where you start to compare loan estimates, right? Because you can get the same house with 2 very different loans and one will cost you more than the other. Maybe one will come with down payment assistance and the other one won't. But it really will come down to your overall, what we call DISC, debt, income, savings, and credit. Apply for down payment assistance comes in here as well, because you're not able to really tell the funder, hey, I need down payment assistance without a property, right? You want to know how much you've already been financed for so that they can calculate your down payment assistance based on the property that you're purchasing. And then that's where you get the insurance quotes. So not too far off, but yes, that's where you get your insurance quotes. Why? At that point, y'all, you already have an address. You already have a loan amount. Your insurance is going to have to be a minimum of how much the house is worth. So if the house is worth $250,000, That's the recommended, what we call minimum dwelling coverage. Because in the event of a total loss of that property, guess what? You're covered. Minimum dwelling coverage. Review closing disclosure. So your loan estimate, emphasis on estimate, is pretty much a jumble of numbers that have come together based on that day's market rate. That interest rate, unless it's locked in, will change from the moment you get pre-approved to the moment that you're sitting down at the table to close, unless it's locked in. And it can be locked in. You just have to make sure you ask your lender. So after reviewing your closing disclosure, do the final walkthrough, right? Because whenever you saw it with your real estate agent, the house may have looked amazing. And what if after you buy it and pay for everything, you go to the house and all of the appliances that you thought were going to be in the house are gone? They're gone. What if the buyer decided to throw a rager and just like totally trash the property, right? So things like that can happen. And so a realtor's job is to do the final walkthrough, and you're absolutely able to go with them. It really is important to pick a realtor that you can vibe with and that will respond to your communication style as well. So it's really important that you understand that these steps all lead to the same place, which is closing. So this is the correct order, what we call Avenue's correct order, HUD's recommended process, so that you guys can gradually become a butterfly. And so that was my timer. We'll come back after break. Rosalia, we get a 10-minute break? Or is it 15?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
10.
Okay, let's do a 10-minute break. Let's be back at 9:30 so that we can figure out how much money is needed to buy a house.